Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. Best of all, it's free to do so.
So if you get the parade on the Saturday before it starts, the place to be is Concours Prep. This year, the entrants are really lucky because if they got here early enough, they got a spot indoors inside the convention center, which meant air conditioning, carpeting, close to the bathrooms. It's a great place to prepare your car. We have John D'Angelo here, who has, what year is your 993?
It's a 97, man.
97, so 97 Cabriolet. He's in probably the toughest class as far as, because it's basically cleanliness and presentation, preparation. So originality isn't really the key, it's how clean the car is, and so that requires a lot of preparation ahead of time. So before you even got here, how many hours do you think you put into the car?
I bet we had 16, maybe 20 hours into it.
And then now that you've been here, how many hours have you put in?
We'll probably, by the time we're ready to go to the Concours field, we'll probably put that many hours in again. So 16, 20 hours.
And he has, you can see some help, including his wife. Not here at the moment. I think she's at the salon or the spa that they have here at the hotel.
She needed a break.
But you can see the hotel mandates that you put down a tarp. A lot of people would have put down the tarp regardless. Just to, you know, it helps them determine if anything's leaking or anything's falling off or whatnot under the car. But we're talking, boy, how many containers of cleaning supplies did you bring?
Oh, the whole frunk was full of cleaning supplies. Basically, there was no room for luggage in the front of the car. But, you know.
So we're talking Q-tips, vacuum, masking tape is the best friend of any detailer.
At least 6 different kinds of microfiber towels.
Exactly, and even you know, you use little bits of tape to try to pick up lint, because the judges have 5 minutes.
Right.
So 5 minutes to find as much dirt or lint or dust in a car, and there's 5 judges or 4.
There's 4, I think. Plus
4 judges. So yeah, 4 people with 5 minutes going over your car. It's pretty stressful. But even the preparation, you know, under these artificial lights, what's the hardest part of the car, do you think, to clean? Is it the glass, the body, the interior?
Well, in this car, it's the engine.
Engine.
There's so many things you can see that are really hard to get your hands into. So
the newer cars, the engines aren't reachable anymore.
Right.
And so they're either hidden or you just plain don't see the engine anymore. So they're lucky they don't have to clean the engine, but you are not.
Right.
You can see that engine in the rear very easily. So yeah, that would be a big chunk of your work.
And for them, the interiors, there's just so many places for dirt to hide in the interior.
This isn't your first time, because usually people try this maybe once and it's either for them or not for them, but you're actually a Concours enthusiast.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a certain special kind of people, I think, that are wired to do this, Manny, and we're those special kind of people.
And if people are wondering, this is not a garage or trailer queen.
No, we drove it here. We actually was in Virginia, so we drove 5 hours to get here. It's full of bugs and road dirt and grime. But you know, that was maybe 2 hours to put right again, and then the real cleaning, you know, for where judges are going to go started.
So there you go. Even if you don't think you can compete, you can. You just got to put some hours in, some elbow grease, and you can have a competitive car too. We're walking around Concours Prep, and we run into someone that, if you watch our YouTube channel, you know him very well, Nathan Mers. He usually is always on Tech Tactics Live, talking about the market, or you've seen his videos, which cover the 911s and the history of them. And of course, he's brought his own 911, personal 911, to the parade. And this is a sleeper. It looks like a regular long hood, but it's actually, tell us what you got hidden under the hood.
It's kind of a hot rod. So it's the one I drive all the time. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it, because obviously coming from Seattle all the way to the East Coast, it's kind of a long journey. And so this one I really like driving. It's got a later 3.2 Motronic in it. So if you've watched my 3.2 video, this is essentially, so it's got kind of a built-up gearbox, a short second, third, fourth, overdriven fifth. It's got a quaif, went through the suspension, big brakes, big motor. But I wanted the aesthetic to be fairly period correct, because this is kind of my rally tour drive excursion car.
So you're competing in preparation, touring.
Street.
Street, so you do
Yes.
street, that's right.
I'm being
Hard to
lazy
keep
this
track.
year. I love it.
So street means, unlike the other car we looked at, you're not having your engine judged.
You're just doing exterior and interior, so it's kind of a good entree for...
Kind of like what you do when you wash your car on a Saturday.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's lower pressure. I figured, you know what, I want to enjoy all the events this week. I'll spend some time on this, but I don't want to spend 100 hours on it. And I just want to have the car here. So it's a good place for people to start, or historically I've always done full. This is way less stressful, so I'm kind of excited about it.
So you were lucky you got here early, got an indoor spot.
Yes.
How many hours do you think you put into the car so far?
Oh, maybe 6 or 8. I did a little bit of prep before I left, which of course all came undone. Laughingly funny, I made it the first day and I thought, oh, it'll stay clean, and then the skies opened up, and that was the end of that. So.
And you drove halfway across the country, and you said you bought a trailer.
I bought a trailer in Chicago.
Not
so,
impulsively, you had already planned to
No,
buy
I'd already
a trailer.
had it, so I was trying to figure out how the heck do I get my trailer, and how do I get a car here, so you get creative, and that's how we did it.
So halfway across the country driving, halfway in the trailer.
Yep.
It did not look like this when you brought it in when we saw it.
No,
It was,
I did use
a lot of road grime on it.
kind of a temporary paint protection film on it, and I rocked the old school bra. So I put the paint protection film, and then I put the big old vinyl bra in the front, and it did a pretty good job. It was definitely filthy, but it protected the car for the most part.
And this class has nothing to do with originality.
No.
So you won't get dinged because you have a different engine in
Nope.
there, or you change something on the seats. They're looking just for cleanliness.
Exactly, and that was kind of important because I only decided to bring this car 48 hours before I left. I was going to bring my 928, I didn't get it done, and I looked around the garage and I said, okay, which car? This one. You know, I said, it's ready to go, it'll be a fun drive, and so I just changed my registration and jumped in this car, and here we are.
This is a class you would recommend for people just starting out or thinking about doing Parade
This is
Concours?
the only class I'd recommend starting out, because this is a serious hobby. It's fun, but this is a great way to learn how it works. Kind of dip your toe in the water, and if you enjoy it, then you can move up. But definitely do not start in a full, in my opinion. So,
Good luck, and we'll be rooting for him to see how he does on his driver.
yeah, very good. Thank you, Manny.
Toughest class in Concours is undoubtedly the restoration class. You've heard Pebble Beach type of car. Restoration is where these cars are born. These cars are made to be identically to the way they left the factory, and this means things have to be authentic and original to that car, and bringing it up to that spec is very hard. So where the other classes focus just on cleanliness, this is all about the car. I'm with Rick and Dave. We have right behind us, we have a beautiful 55 Speedster and a 61 Roadster. 62 Roadster.
Yes.
So you're entering two cars in the
two
toughest class.
In the same class.
in the toughest class in one Concours.
Yes.
And you're not taking any prescription drugs
no, just
or alcohol.
We're naturally just
People have said this is a big challenge, but
Yes.
we're accepting the challenge.
So this isn't your first parade. You've done other parades, so you know how tough this judging is.
Yes, and the first time Rick showed up, he had a lot of work to do, and he's worked diligently to get these cars up to the standard. Where how many points did we get at the last show, Rick?
298.5, but actually my first show, when I had the pre-judging, they told me that I should probably leave.
Yes.
Because the car wasn't ready for the Concours show. So we had to take the car off site and have somebody help prepare it. But the details that are required to enter this class are just enormous. From every screw to every paint color to the engine, making sure that all the wires and everything are connected properly, to every part of the car needs to be the way it would look as you take it off the factory floor. So they'll also actually touch underneath every surface too, so there's also a cleanliness factor. I've gotten points off for a bolt had the wrong stamping, or you had you didn't color in bolts that should have been colored, or that the sticker on the back of the engine wasn't proper, and so forth.
So cars this old, are parts available, or is this something where you're making parts?
There's a network of available parts, but some of the challenges are, for instance, Stoddard will have some parts. Mm-hmm. They'll have a sticker for this car, but they don't actually make the correct sticker. So you have to go out and get the correct sticker for the distributor made yourself to make sure it's period correct, because the one that they sell has the wrong part number on it. So a fastidious judge could could catch that. So we made sure that we even have the right stickers on the engine, and this car has that car has Phillips head bolts retaining the rub strip. This has straight edge bolts because it changed from 55 to 62. And if you look at them, they look the same, other than one's a Phillips and one's a standard.
You got to know that, and then you got to have the right parts.
Correct.
To be able to put it in.
Correct.
So that checklist you guys must be really long.
It's enormous, and you know, and we also, to add to the pedigree of the cars, we researched the history of the car. So we made sure, you know, before Rick undertook the enormous challenge of restoring these, that they're full numbers matching chassis. We have full documentation of the cars since day one ownership. So it's pretty exciting. We have original owner's manuals for these cars, and that's a whole nother challenge in itself, is to have the original owner's manual and all the documentation that goes with it, the way in good enough shape that it looks like it came off the factory floor.
Do you think it's harder preparing a soft top than a coupe?
There's challenges. I think that's the third top you've put on the 55. So yes, it's definitely a challenge.
There are some challenges because nobody really knew exactly the way the top should fit or what it looked like. So we had some challenges that the window sizes, and we have to actually fabricate the top from scratch from different types of patterns.
So how many hours do you think each car roughly has in preparation?
Thousands. That's a 4-year restoration on the first car, just to get it in a state before we could start tinkering. And I've been working probably for the last month, every evening, every weekend, have a lift. We're under there steaming every nut and bolt and part of the engine to make sure that there's not a speck of dust anywhere.
Well, I know you guys were like one of the first people in this room.
Yes.
When the doors opened. So obviously, I think you've been working from what time the door opened. So
yes.
they kick you out at night.
You know, we tried to come as prepared as we could, but you're never done.
Sure.
So what we do is you get prejudged. You get the opinion of some experts, and they'll give you a few little tweaks, you know, to try to get to that perfect elusive score.
Now, the nice thing about restoration is, even if you don't win a trophy, there's the levels of achievement, right?
Correct. Yes, there are.
Correct.
So,
yes. and then there's People's Choice Award too.
Yeah, People's Choice.
Yes,
But levels of
that's for
achievement
everybody.
actually rewards you on the amount of points. So before you said you had 295. 298 points. So that's almost a perfect score. It's 300 right. is perfect. Right. They usually do tenths of a point increments. So that's almost as flawless as you can get. That you go home with a medal just for scoring that high.
Correct. Yeah. But he went home, and we came back with all those deductions corrected. So we'll see
and
how it
more.
goes. Yes,
yeah.
and really have worked hard. I mean, if you just saw the car at the last show, it looked, from standing here, it looked the same. But it's when you get into those minute details.
And that's something the judges know exactly what to look for. So if you want to see as close to perfection as you can get, probably, as the Germans say, better than they left the factory when they remember it, right. You want to see restoration at the Porsche Parade Concours. Right. So the Porsche Club values cars that are original, that people have maintained for the life of the car, and they created a class years ago to honor those cars and have a place for them to compete, because they became hard to compete against cars that were restored and had fresh paint and had all the blemishes gone. So with preservation, that's allowed. They're looking for original paint, original interior, no modifications. There's some allowances, but you get the merits. And the biggest difference is the judges don't touch the car. They're not looking for dirt. They're not running their fingers in places looking for dirt. They're looking for originality and preservation. So I have Bob Gutjahr here, who's the owner, or co-owner, because you and your wife own this car.
That's correct.
I think it's called Goldie?
No, it's called Audrey.
Audrey, I'm sorry. It's gold paint though, right?
It is. It's Byzantine gold metallic, the Mercedes-Benz color.
So that was, back then, it would have been called PTS if there was PTS, right? But
yes.
That was, I believe, before PTS started.
Yep.
So you picked this car up how long ago?
We've owned this car for 3 years. We picked it up in January of 2019.
And you knew when you bought this car, this was probably a perfect car for preservation.
I did. We knew because it was an untouched, unmolested car. It was a great candidate for the preservation class. One owner car. The paint is 85% or more still original to the car. It is as delivered. The previous owner, who was the owner of Quaker Bridge Porsche Audi, had his dealership put the rear spoiler and the front spoiler on but everything is original to the car. And the important part of that is, as you suggested, Manny, is the preservation of the car to keep it as original as possible and to keep that legacy going forward for future generations.
And there's actually two like preservation groups or
Yes.
categories
Yes,
for
sir.
mileage.
Yes. So there's two groups, as you mentioned, one for low mileage, and that is those cars like this one that do not meet the standard for the PCRs, which is 1,000 miles per year. So if a car is going to be in preservation class and judged as a preserved car, it has to have 1,000 miles per year. So for this car to be in that class, it would have to have 42,000 miles because it's a 1980 911 SC. Because it only has 25,000 miles, the class that it is in is preserved low mileage, which is different than the regular preservation class.
And this is why in the past we've had cars with, I believe, over 100,000 miles
Correct.
win overall in preservation.
Correct.
So if you're at home and you're thinking about entering your original car and you say, well, my car is nowhere near the low mileage that this car is, you don't have to worry. There's a class for you and you can still compete in preservation. And I think the neatest part is that the judges don't touch anything.
Well, that's true. And the great thing about preservation also is that there's a dialogue between the owner and the judges. The judges want to understand the car's use, how well it's been preserved, how well it's been taken care of. It's going to be important for the owner to show and demonstrate that the car has been driven. In many cases, I'm a judge in preservation. We ask the owner how many miles he's accumulated, what type of events he's taken the car to, has he tracked the car. All those things weigh in the judge's consideration for preservation beyond just cleanliness and appearance. It's usage, and it's the history of the car and the legacy of the car and how well it's been used and how well it's been preserved.
Not necessarily a museum piece,
No,
but one
absolutely
that's
not.
been enjoyed and used.
Exactly
And the
right.
better the story, basically, the better chance you have at winning.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, there are some cases where I've been a judge or I've seen judges evaluate a series of cars, and even if a pristine preserved car has never been used that much or has not been driven, the car that has been driven, that has patina, may have some chips that have been addressed or whatever. That car will take precedence over a preserved car that's not been driven or used at all.
So, even though they don't touch the car, you're still preparing.
Absolutely.
So how much time did you spend preparing for this before you came here?
So I always, for what we do, we always use the Deutschmark Concours, run by Potomac Region, as a test bed for Parade. So this car was presented and shown in Potomac Region's Deutschmark Concours in the beginning of May. I probably spent a week prepping the car back then for that Concours, which has the same standards, by the way, as preservation class. I recommend for regions considering Concours that they use preservation class because there's no points associated with preservation class. But anyway, this car I spent a week on, and I've not had the time since the Deutschmark to do much preparation. I have only put, after the Deutschmark, I probably put 3 or 4 hours in it until I got here, and now it's been all hands on deck since we got here Thursday night.
Well, I've just seen you socializing, so I don't think you've been putting many hours in because that's part of Concours prep.
That's true,
Is
too.
you, unfortunately, it's the beginning of the week, so you're making reacquaintances with friends.
That's true.
And so maybe 1 out of every 10 minutes you're actually cleaning, I think.
That's true, but one of the things, and you touch upon a very good point for the people watching this. I mean, if you've never Concours a car, I would suggest that you attempt it because being a part of this community, there's so much camaraderie here for the people that are preparing the cars, sharing of information, sharing parts, sharing cleaning materials, and everybody stops by. It's like a little town hall for Parade, if you will, before it officially kicks off. So everybody that comes to Parade always walks through these aisles, and you see everybody here. And so it's like a reunion of sorts. And like you said, I mean, you spend more time talking to people than you do prepping because everybody wants to talk about the car, your family, or whatever. But it's a wonderful experience. I can't stress enough that of all the Parade activities that we do, I enjoy Concours prep more than any other event at Parade, except for my wife's gimmick rally, putting in a plug for Ellen and her gimmick rally. But the Concours prep is awesome.
So if you have a car that's all original and at least 85% original paint and you want to come to Parade, if it meets the age requirement, this is the class for you.
Exactly.